You can always tell it's Oscar season when the slave movies start coming out. Oh. Oh. My Lord. All the slave trailers sound the same. They always start like that. You know it's a slave movie as soon as you hear those notes. We're doing movie reviews. I want to get your takes.
Well, welcome back.
Saltburn.
Well, let's say hello, because it's been a hot minute since we've actually chatted with each other and Earth. So hello, good day, fine sir. Welcome to 2024. This season of Earth will be titillating as usual. The humans are eating each other as expected in all kinds of interesting ways. But before we dive into that, East Coast to West Coast is once again catching up from the holidays, returning safe and sound from all of our respective activities. I am on the East Coast. My counterpart is on the West Coast, and we are catching up on all that is fair in love and war as far as the movies that have come out and what we've seen. So I guess we'll start the conversation there. My friends, how are you?
I am great, and we are getting into Oscar season. And as we talked about when we were in Puerto, you can always tell it's Oscar season when the slave movies start coming out. Oh. My Lord. All the slave trailers sound the same. They always start like that. You know it's a slave movie as soon as you hear those notes. You know a slave movie. Here we go. Oscar bait.
So I know the second version of Color Purple came out.
It's a musical now. The Color Purple's a drama. Now these niggas are happy and smiling and dancing and clapping.
Can we do a movie about the heart surgeon? Can we do a movie about Frederick Douglass and Du Bois? Americans say Du Bois. There are so many other features of the African-American experience that I'm going to take my time going to see The Color Purple for a number of reasons. First of all, the original to me is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I think it's an almost perfect movie. So I don't like when almost perfect or perfect movies are remade. I don't know why. I don't see why. I don't see the purpose. Yes. Nonetheless, it's on my roster of things to do this season of Earth. I saw Saltburn and the new Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes.
Beautiful. Saltburn to me, it was almost perfect. Everybody is a scene stealer. How they nailed a cast down like that is I thought it was amazing. Very much in the realm of the talented Mr. Ripley. But with an interesting era take, because they do it in like mid 2000s or something. So it's kind of interesting that was the era they picked. But the music, the foreshadowing, every word. I mean, what a brilliant film. I can't say enough about it. I saw the Bayard Rustin film as well. I did not think it was a great film. I thought it was a good film. But Mr. Domingo, who plays Bayard Rustin, to me, deserves to be nominated for an Oscar. I think he nails that role. Proud to say my students were taught that in my class when I was a public school teacher on the West Coast. So my kids will know who Bayard Rustin is. But because so many states, over a dozen states, have eliminated African-American studies from the curriculum, so many students are not familiar with his story. Mm-hmm. So it is a wonderful movie. It is well worth seeing. And I can't say enough about that cast. What say you?
What is the name of this movie about Mr. Rustin? Because that's actually not on my radar, and I'm disappointed in myself.
Lord, I think it might be the Bayard Rustin movie, but let me check.
That'd be a cool name.
Hang on, Rustin.
Oh, it's called Rustin. Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah, for some reason I was blanking. But yes, it is called Rustin. bring up a few details about it because I definitely think Coleman Domingo, who plays Bayard Rustin, nails it from what I know of Bayard Rustin. Again, for those of us who are just catching up and chatting about what's going on, a little background on Bayard Rustin is that he was basically the mastermind behind a lot of the events that took place under the representation of Martin Luther King. So he was very instrumental in the March on Washington. He's the brainchild behind Martin Luther King and has pretty much been erased from history other than my classroom with my students. Hello, West Coast, you know who you are. He was not represented because he was an openly gay African-American man.
Mhm.
So again, Martin Luther King, there can be no words for the sacrifices that man made to move the needle for Black people and all oppressed people in this country. But Martin Luther King was not ready to take on the LGBT issue at the time. So it is interesting. And I would imagine that probably had a lot to do with his his foundation in Christianity. He was a minister after all. But nonetheless, he worked closely with Bayard Rustin, knowing he was a gay man. So that, I think, is a testimony to Martin Luther King's openness to understanding what Bayard Rustin makes a point in the movie to say is, we're either fighting for everybody's rights or we're not. Everybody or we're not. There is no in between. It's a beautiful movie. I recommend you seeing it. Coleman Domingo steals the stage as Bayard Rustin. The cast is awesome as well. Chris Rock's in it. Lily Kay, who plays the daughter in Your Honor, which was 2 seasons on HBO. Brilliant show as well. I encourage you to see it. So put that on your radar.
Hell yeah. Absolutely will. I saw Saltburn and I was kind of mid on it. However, I did.
Really? Oh my God.
I enjoyed the acting and I thought they shot the shit out of it. Beautiful cinematography.
Yes. The cinematography, stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, that house.
Yeah. Especially that shot that they put the camera on the ground and they find Homeboy. Now, it won't spoil the thing, but they find a person in a place and you got the statue and the people's reaction. And
it's a sacrifice, bro. I mean, it's a testimony to pretty much what Cat Williams was saying. But anyway, how come you were kind of poo-poo on the movie overall, though? I thought it was brilliant.
So Zara pointed out that the general plot of just like what the main person does and the end that they get to, trying not to spoil it. Zara pointed out that like that's the plot of like a lot of movies that you see on like Lifetime. Just this was done with a higher budget and bigger actors. Like she's seen this like narrative structure before.
Okay, so she wasn't kind of she wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe this is where this ended.
Yeah, and I got that too. But then I was looking at it and I was just like, okay, this one character, Farley, is just mean to this guy for no fucking reason. Okay. And then, and he's just like always here to be this person, an asshole to this person. And they didn't really flush out his character.
See, and I totally got what that was about because I feel like my inner soul is a gay man. I was like, this is 2 bitchy gay men who like the same guy. That's how they behaved.
Yeah, that's absolutely how they behaved. And yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Like, bitch, like, what are you doing sniffing around my man? And it's kind of like a, bitch, your man sniffing around me.
Like,
even though it wasn't a sexual dynamic because they were related, but the bitchiness between the characters was that of someone invading. So like, it's almost like when you know someone's sniffing around your man and you know they like him and you know that your man has a reaction to them, whether they like them or respond to it or not, you know it's there.
Okay. So it's almost like a chemical reaction that you have to, you know, it's almost, yeah.
I got cheated on. Well, not really. I cheated on a boyfriend once and we broke up. Having said that, when we were together, I went with him to a Spanish class one time because he was like this. I'm in this Spanish class that I take at night and it's 20 people. 18 of them are girls and it's me and one other guy. And he goes, and quite frankly, like every time we get it, like there's a break in class, or it's like girls want to just talk to you and do homework. Like, I want you to come with me to class so that they know I have a girlfriend. And I was like, okay, cool. So I put on my cutest little getup because I was like, 18 girls is still a lot of girls. I mean, I know I'm cute, but I'm not 18 girls. Like, I'm not Naomi Campbell. I can't like knock out 18 girls in a single bound, like because of my beauty. So I was like, let me kick this up a notch without looking like I tried. I was not worried about anybody in this room except one. It was something about the way she so confidently walked up to my boyfriend with me standing there and was like, what's up? And he was like, hey, like there was a comfortability with them that I was like, if he ever cheats on me or ever broke up with me, he's going to date her. I felt it. And it was the way she looked at me. She was like, hi. Like she knew you break up with him for even 30 seconds, I'll get him.
See, I wonder if there's an extended edition of Saltburn where there's maybe one more scene with that character where they give that motivation.
I see. So you didn't see, right. So it wasn't threaded into the fabric of the story for you, whereas I just kind of picked up on it as a like, like, oh, so you think you can get him, huh? But it wasn't a sexual dynamic between Farley and Felix because they were related, but the dynamic between him and the main character was that it reminded me of that. Right. And no sooner that boyfriend and I broke up, guess what? Who'd he get me back with? Her.
Wow.
And then we got back together, but he was like, oh, by the way, I hooked up with her. And I was like, I knew you would.
Huh. Damn.
Because like, it was the way she looked at me like, I can get him.
Right.
And the reason she felt that way is because there was an entrance that he was giving off, whether he knew it or not. I was like, you're giving off something that's making her feel confident. I don't blame her. I blame you.
Not really like shutting it down the way one probably should. If somebody's flirting with you and shit and you have a girlfriend.
He was eating a health bar and she walked up to him and she was like, give me a bite of that. And she just bit it. And I was like, why would she feel comfortable doing that unless she felt comfortable doing that?
Uh-huh. Yeah, who does that?
Right. And then we had to go out with his class for like a Spanish movie or whatever. And as soon as he and I walked in, she was like, hey, I saved you guys a seat. This bitch. Again.
Right.
That was the dynamic. So for me, it worked immediately. I was like, oh, as soon as he was like, I was like, yeah, because they're each other.
Okay.
We've both been in his space. I'm going to watch it again. I loved it. And have you seen Talented Mr. Ripley?
Yes, a long time ago.
Okay, which did you like better?
I liked Talented Mr. Ripley better.
Interesting.
But I saw that when I was in film school and that,
And that has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, and you who can beat him?
Right.
I mean, he steals that movie for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, shit. I mean, he's, R.I.P. He's a legend.
Yeah,
Oscar winner.
He's like a Gary Oldman to me. He's Gary Oldman level for me.
Oh, yeah.
Anything he's in, I'll see it. Anything.
Yeah. I mean, shit, even in Mission Impossible, he carried that Mission Impossible movie where he's the villain.
Love him.
All the other villains in Mission Impossible movies are just like Bond villains. They're just like, cartoon villains, right?
He always brings a little texture to his thing. I don't know. Maybe I just got a thing for people who do heroin. Anyway, also happening in the world is sadly enough, the hypocrisy of the U.S. now denouncing the Houthis and calling them a terrorist group. Have you followed this story? I believe this just happened today.
So I thought we labeled them a terrorist group a long time ago. Because
we did, and then we took them off the terrorist list, and then we put them back on.
Oh, we took them off because there was a cease. Okay, so let's back up and just cover a little bit of context. So
yes,
these are a rebel group in Yemen that has been trying to overthrow the government in Yemen. They are Shia and they are backed by Iran, who is also Shia. Okay, the Yemeni government is Sunni. Okay, who's Iran's sworn enemy? The Saudis, because the Saudis are Sunni. So the Saudis have been bombing the Houthis and helping the Yemeni government fight off the Houthi rebels because it's been a proxy war between Sunni and Shia, between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And there was a ceasefire after years and years of war, because this has been going on since the Arab Spring.
Right.
There
Like
was a
nothing
ceasefire.
happening in the Middle East right now, either in Israel or in Iran, is in a silo. This is all decades in the making, going back. You could easily start at the Balfour Agreement at the tail of the 1800s that was instigated by the British, where basically they made a deal with the Arab Jews, the Middle Eastern Jews and the Middle Eastern Arabs, saying, help us fight the Ottoman and we'll give you land. And they did. And afterwards, the British basically kept their word with the primarily Ashkenazi Jews, which are Eastern European Jews, opposed to keeping their word to the Arab Muslim societies. And a big part of what's going on has a lot to do with that agreement and the British breaking their promises to the people. And although there's an argument that the people at the time, you can call them Palestinians or past Philistines, the people at the time had an opportunity to participate in the agreement, but that's actually not completely true, because what people forget was that at the time, the print and the news was obstructed in that region. So they did not have freedom of press at the time. So by the time the Balfour Declaration occurred and the following events that occurred, it took almost 2 years for the people in that region to even find out that all of this unfolded. So there's a lot of history to the events that's going on, but what's happening with the Houthis and Iran, it is connected loosely to what is going on with Israel.
Right. And so I guess maybe we took them off of the terrorist watch list or the terrorist list after with that, peace agreement. Maybe that was part of it. But with everything that's going on in Israel, which we can get into at another time, because that deserves several episodes unto itself. But now, Yemen's right there by the Red Sea. They are attacking ships going in and out of the Red Sea, and a lot of shipping goes through the Red Sea as a means of fighting against Israel. They believe they're attacking ships that are bound for Israel, but they're essentially just attacking any ship that they see. Like they attacked like a ship that was going to go to China or a ship that was owned by China. So now we have fought them in the water, and now we've actually struck some targets in Yemen to get them to stop doing that, because global shipping, not just oil, but global shipping in general is going to be impacted if you've got these folks hitting these giant, container ships and tanker ships coming through the Red Sea.
Correct. Yeah, according to Time magazine, Yemen imports 90% of its food. It's had a war and chronic misgovernment, which have left 24 million Yemenis at risk of hunger and disease, and 14 million are in acute need of humanitarian assistance, according to the United Nations. Aid groups during the height of this have issued repeated warnings that millions of Yemenis were on the brink of famine. So, and unfortunately, because of the strikes that you are speaking about, the Biden administration has put them back on the terrorist list because they've escalated the attacks on Israel.
Now, are the Houthis attacking Israel directly as well?
They're saying that they're working with Iran and Hamas allied militant groups around the Middle East.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the thing, the Shia kind of axis of influence. It starts with Iran, and then it's the Houthis in Yemen. It's Hamas in Palestine, occupied Palestine, in Gaza and the West Bank, whatever you want to say. And then Hezbollah in Lebanon. They're also Shia.
Right.
Yeah. So proxy wars, and, that's just how we're kicking off 2024. We could do a whole roundup of all the hot spots across the world, because the Niger coup that we talked about last year, there's still shit going on with that. Other African nations are talking about a military operation. We're actually paying Kenya to do a military operation in Haiti right now to get Haiti under control, because Haiti is a fallen state after the Haitian president got killed last year. We talked about that. We can revisit that. And then we got stuff that might pop off in Taiwan because the Taiwanese election just happened, and they elected someone that China is not really a big fan of. So we'll put a stop there, and we'll come back to that and just do a full like kind of geopolitical roundup there, and we can do a deep dive and do our research and everything. What do you have to say about where we're at right now with the Houthis and the fact that we're bombing yet another place?
What I would say is that the military industrial complex must be jerking each other off. Like they must be partying like this is 1999. There's got to be cocaine midgets and people hanging upside down and diving naked into swimming pools with the amount of money that this industry must be making with all these wars going on. I think it's bad for morale in so many ways. I cannot believe that all these people. I can't believe this planet has the nerve to claim to believe in God. I don't want anybody to tell me how much they love God, Jesus, Allah, Kunta, whatever it is. I don't believe anybody anymore, because the level of savagery that is occurring under our eyes, to me, is the most repulsive thing I've ever seen since the apartheid in South Africa. And for God to be an undertone in any of this, I think is even more sickening. So I find the whole thing deeply disappointing that this is where we're kicking off 2024. I think it's also shameful that we still have award shows going on, and at the same time, people posting how much they care. I mean, how much can you care about what's going on there? I mean, the gift bags are $500,000, and yet we have like migrant people sleeping on the street, blocks from synagogues, mosques, and churches. So I really don't know what's going on this planet anymore. I think it's straight up schizophrenic, and I'm actually surprised people aren't eating people in the middle of the street at this point.
Maybe it's only a matter of time.
I'm
surprised. So last year I was like, okay, the Republican governors, the Texas and Florida, they've been sending these migrants to Chicago. They've been sending them to New York for more than a year now. And I'm like, San Francisco has got to be on their list. So I'm wondering, maybe they're waiting until the election heats up some more, and then they're going to start sending the buses to San Francisco, because we don't have that many people and we ain't got that much space. It'd be very easy for them to completely overwhelm us. It really wouldn't take that many buses for them to completely overwhelm us. But I looked into the New York thing, and part of what they're doing is exploiting the fact that New York has a law that says like you have a right to shelter.
Yeah,
they're
running out of space, allegedly, running out of space. It is so cold here. It hasn't been this cold in so long. We find there was snow all the way from northern New York down through Philadelphia. It has been brutal. And I really don't understand how, as human beings, no matter what our political beliefs or religious beliefs or moral compass, how can we let a single human being have to sleep outside in 0-degree weather that feels like negative 12 degrees when there's churches all around that could they could sleep on the church bench? Like, I mean, I find it sickening. I find it sickening, and I find it hypocritical. And I really don't care about anybody telling me that they pray, they believe in God, because until I see people walking outside and manifesting all that bullshit, I don't want to hear it. It is shameful to have people standing outside trying to wait in line to get a bed somewhere. For what? There's a Catholic church, a synagogue, a mosque, a Buddhist temple, a block away from everywhere that these migrants are trying to get shelter. And you're telling me these people don't feel compelled to open their doors and their parishioners aren't demanding that they do so? Why not? Every single one of these religions have a philosophy of love and take care of each other. Here's your opportunity to do it. And the second everybody gets an opportunity to do it, everybody gets amnesia.
Yeah. Now, I saw something on IG and I reposted it or added to my story, whatever. Some pastor somewhere, and I will look up the details and come back to you on this. In fact, maybe I can just find it now. Some pastor actually started housing homeless folks at his church, and he's facing criminal charges for it because he's violating zoning laws.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Don't tell me that this planet, that people care about God and care about each other. They don't. So if we really don't, why do we have to keep walking around pretending like we do? Oh, the other movie I did see, speaking of movies, is the Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali movie. Was it Leave the World Behind?
Oh, yes.
I thought that was extremely well done as well. First of all, I love him. I'll see anything he's in. If he was in a commercial for pimples, I would watch it. I thought it was well done, and honestly, it's a pretty good analogy of where this planet is going. I mean, it really doesn't take much to
Okay, I
tip the
found it.
scale.
This is happening in a place called Bryan, Ohio. The pastor's name is Chris Avell,
Okay.
AV as in Victor, ELL, and the church is called Dad's Place.
Okay.
And yes, he pled not guilty on January 11th to zoning code violations. The fact that we have zoning code violations that end up with criminal charges and he has to plead not guilty to them, like you would think that would just be a ticket.
Yeah.
That and then the ticket could just be written down to like a $1 charge. But this is a bit ridiculous. Yeah. Said the Bryan City Zoning Commission told him Dad's Place, which does not have bedrooms, could no longer house homeless.
Shameful.
The one Christian who's actually doing what the Bible says, doing what Jesus said, because all the other I won't say all, but most of the other Christians that I run into are full-blown hypocrites. You find one that's actually doing what Jesus said do, and y'all are going to come down on him for zoning violations. First of all, one of his neighbors turned him in because they didn't want the homeless folks across the street from them.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Somebody snitched them out. One of those alleged, I believe in God people living in that neighborhood snitched them out, or somebody who's got beef with. It's disgusting. And I don't want anybody to tell me that they believe in God. Nothing's being done in God's name. Everybody's loyal to their self-interests.
Might have been another pastor who didn't want to face pressure for doing that at his church.
Absolutely. But most likely a neighbor.
Yeah.
Shameful. That just didn't want them around. I mean, people are losing their minds here because half of the migrants and homeless people here are now in some of the most expensive parts of Manhattan.
Yeah. And just
so
to give
of course,
an idea,
I understand that, you pay $30 million for an apartment, you come outside, there's a guy taking a shit in front of your apartment building. That's going to piss you off.
And Bryan, Ohio isn't even that big of a town. It's 53 miles southwest of Toledo, and the population is 8,729 people as of the 2020 census. The weather is 17 degrees right now in Bryan, Ohio.
Horrible.
And y'all want to say this guy can't have people just spend the night at the church. 17-degree weather.
How can you do that as a human being? When I see it on you, I instantly start to cry. It makes me so sick.
It's not like this is it's not like this is 1,000 buses full of migrants. This town only has 8,700 people. This is probably a handful of folks who are either out of work or maybe got strung out on opioids, because a lot of those small towns in the Rust Belt, that's the big problem there, right? It's folks who just need a little bit of help. Come on. Not that if they were migrants, that would make it better to kick them out. But for all the folks who, I'll just send them back, or they should do this or whatever. Like these are our own people. If you want to do some America First shit, these are probably our own people, and y'all still saying fuck them.
The worst part. So another layer of this is that they kicked out. Actually, they closed down a school and made the kids start doing online school so that they could use the school as a shelter, and people lost it. And to tell you the truth, I agree with that. That's not right.
Yeah, I heard they didn't get any notice either. It was just people woke up that day and they found out they did. So all those parents who were counting on their kids going off to school, now they got to be like, the kids aren't old enough to be home alone all day.
Yep.
Yeah, what kind of Mickey Mouse operation is this? What the fuck? Like,
horrible. And I really think it's just to discourage kids from being in school. All this pushback against college is nonsense, and they're doing this and da-da-da. It's all to discourage people from going to school so that it circles back to being a place for elite. Because guess what? All the people complaining, they're still sending their kids to those schools.
Thank you.
Don't get it twisted. Their kids are going to college. There's a reason they want their kids to go to college. It teaches you discipline. It gives you exposure. It broadens your reading level. You experience people that you may not have come across before. You get to learn mentors. You get a network. There's a lot of positives to education. And I think all of this is just an excuse to bum kids out of being excited about school. Shameful. It's shameful. Shame on this place. I want to live in an educated world. I want people around me to be healthy. I want people around me to be smart. If from no other reason, a selfish standpoint, so that I don't get robbed when I'm walking down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't complicated. This isn't complicated.
Well, if people aren't getting educated, then how else are you going to have these minimum? Where else are you going to find people to be your minimum wage workers? Where else are you going to find enough people that commit a small crime that you can send away to one of these for-profit prisons to do even lower wage work? Okay, and then where else are you going to find people that are going to be your infantry in our army in this generation and the upcoming generation?
We have to do better, and hopefully, in doing better, we'll make better choices in candidates. Speaking of, Trump is still the front runner for the Republican Party. Vivek Ramaswamy has just dropped out of the race, polling below Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, who are both polling at around 20%. Trump is around 50%, which still means half of the nation does not want to vote for him. Having said that, Chris Christie also dropped out of the race. Having said that, the Democratic Party has seemed to ice everybody out of public view except Biden and Kamala, which I do not agree with. There are other candidates who are running, including Cornel West and Marianne Williamson and RF Kennedy Jr., and the Democrats are just simply not passing them the mic. And I don't appreciate that. I think that's manipulative. And it's something out of the Republican playbook. I mean, you could say about time, Democrats, finally, like you found your balls. The other side of it is I would like to hear from the other candidates. I mean, does it come down to two old white men who've both been accused of sexual assault? This is the best we can do. You can't even get a job at McDonald's with that kind of bullshit on your resume. But these two get to run for president. I'm so over this planet. But I guess we'll see what happens on the next episode of Earth. Until then, peace.